traveling to Australia soon? This is the video you must watch as we are going to cover some of the amazing tips and hacks if you are traveling for the very first time as an international student. Or even if you are a regular traveler, this video will certainly help. As we are going to give you some tips and hacks related to flights, packing, currency, arrival, and some others. So make sure to stick around till the end. Without wasting much time, let's get started with our tips and hacks. So in regards to flights, my first tip will be that you need to book your flights nice and early. Not too early as well, but just a couple of months before your departure, you should be looking at the flights. The reason being that usually if you are coming during the peak times, the prices will be much higher. So last minute bookings may not be a great idea. It may work for some cases, but if you book a little bit earlier, it's usually better. And when booking, it's important that you as a student should always ask for a student offer or student deal. Sometimes the fares for the students are different than the normal fares. And even if the fares are similar, sometimes they offer extra baggage for students because they know that you need some extra space to bring all your luggage when you're moving to a new country. So it's always worth asking the airline you're traveling with if they have a student offer or student discounts. If you want to know what sort of offers or discounts are available for students, then I recommend you to check this article here. Here we talk about airlines offering student discounts in Australia. So whether you are traveling from or to Australia, these airlines offer some discounts or some other student privileges. So we'll leave a link of that in the description box below. So make sure to check it after this video. Now in terms of finding the best fares, it is a good idea to do research on websites like Google Flights or Skyscanner. These websites usually provide you some of the best deals out there available from the airlines. And in my personal experience, try avoiding booking during the weekend. If you can book during the weekdays, preferably they say on Tuesday, that's when the airline fares are much cheaper comparing to if you are booking it on the weekends. And one important thing to keep in mind is that cheaper may not always be the best option. Sometimes you have to see how long the layovers are or how many layovers that you have to go through for these cheaper flights. So my suggestion would be not only just look at the cheaper flight, but also look at the duration of the flight and how many stopovers you have during your flight. And again, some flights might be cheaper because they don't offer baggage or they don't offer any meals or any entertainment during the flight. Especially for the long flights, you need to consider these factors. And when you are boarding your flight, it's important that you arrive at the airport at least 2 to 3 hours before your departure time. Because it's an international flight, you need to be at airport at least 2-3 hours before. Ideally 3 hours. If you are flying for the first time, you might be a bit nervous and you want to take some time to do certain things. And that's why I'm suggesting if you can come at the airport at least 3 hours before your departure, that'll be better. Now in terms of the flight itself, when you're flying to Australia, the chances are that you might get some jet lag. And trust me, jet lag is real. Personally speaking, I usually fly to some Asian countries and some subcontinent countries. And in my experience, when I'm flying from Australia, the jet lag is not that bad to those countries. But when I'm flying from those countries to Australia, it's a shocker. So what my suggestion would be for new students who are flying for the first time, that you start adjusting your sleep according to the Australian time at least few days before flying. This will help you to overcome that jet lag a bit better. Another suggestion would be to try to make your flight experience as comfortable as possible. Now during the flight, the chances are that they might give you some pillows and some blankets, but that may not be sufficient. You might need to invest a bit of money in buying a good neck pillow. This helps a lot during your travel, especially if you are taking a longer flight. Other thing to reduce your jet lag will be to stay hydrated during your flight. Now yes, you can ask water from the air hostess, but I suggest you buy a reusable water bottle and bring it along with you during your travel. Now important thing to keep in mind is that you make sure that this is empty during the airport security, because you're not allowed to bring liquids beyond 100 milliliters, but at the airport they could be quite strict about not bringing any water during your security screening. So ideally bring empty one and then you can refill it in the airport terminal using taps or bubblers available in the airport. And during the flight as well, make sure to get out of your seat and do some stretches, as it will help to reduce your jet lag. So that was in terms of the flights. Now let's move on to tips and tricks regarding your packing. My first tip will be to make sure to check your luggage allowance allowed by your airline. Look, every airline may have a different requirements for the luggage you can carry. So for the checked in baggage, for the hand carry, it may be different. So it's important that you check how much baggage is allowed by the airline you're traveling with. And the next tip will be that when you're packing your bags, make sure that you use some sort of a packing checklist. Now, we do have a free one on our website. If you need one, you can download it by clicking the link in the description box below. Now, that checklist is very comprehensive, but it's generic in nature. Your needs might be different. So I suggest you to make your own checklist and check those items along as you are packing the bags, because the chances that you might forget one or two things here and there when you're packing so many things. So very important to create a packing checklist. Now, in terms of shopping, a lot of students ask me usually, should I buy certain items in my home country or should I come and buy in Australia? Look, it depends upon a lot of factors. First thing would be obviously your preferences, then your budget, then also the pricing in a home country versus pricing in Australia. And in terms of certain things like clothing, I suggest students usually to shop some from their home country. So I would say like 60% of their shopping can be done in the home country, and the rest of the 40%, I suggest you to keep the budget to shop in Australia. And the reason for that is that you do want to follow the Australian trends and styles. Sometimes you bring clothing from your home country and then you come and realize that it's quite different to what people are wearing here in Australia. Nothing wrong with that, but it might be a bit uncomfortable for you. So I suggest students that they do some shopping in their home country and some here in Australia after arriving. And in terms of laptops and other electronics as well, if you haven't bought one, then ideally you should come in Australia and then buy it over here. Reason being, there are some good deals and offers you can get, but also the plugs and chargers are different as well. Now, this is how Australian charger or plugs look like, and chances are that it's different than your home country. So when buying electronics, I suggest you to buy it in Australia if you haven't bought it already, because of these things. And if you already have electronics and you want to bring them, make sure to get an Australian style adapter if you can. Otherwise, you can come to Australia and then buy here. But I suggest if you can find one before coming from your home country, that will help you a lot, because you might need to charge your phone or some other devices as soon as you arrive here. Now, in terms of packing your clothes, some of the online communities suggest that instead of laying your clothes flat like this, especially the t-shirts, you roll them. This trick apparently saves you space in your baggage. Although a lot of people suggest that it should be done only with the t-shirts or lighter clothes, not with the pants, especially if you have thicker pants or jeans. So you can lay these jeans flat and roll all your t-shirts. One another trick or suggestion would be that you use compression bags that you can actually compress. That will help you to save a lot of space in your baggage as well. And if you're just bringing generic medicines like paracetamol or Panadols or Nurofen, then I suggest you that you have them in your handbag, as you will need to declare any medication that you're bringing in, but you can easily show it to the Australian Border Force officers when asked to do so. Although make sure that you don't put any liquid medicines in here, as you will not be allowed to bring them if they are more than 100 milliliters. Those liquid medicines, you can put it in your checked in baggage. Moving on to our next part, which is currency. So ideally you should bring some cash when you're coming here for the very first time. The question is, how much? Now obviously it depends upon few factors, such as how much money you can afford to bring, or if you are bringing some other form of money like a credit card or debit card with you. Now we asked our Instagram community, and also my personal suggestion would be to bring around $1,000 to $2,000, and that is in cash. Obviously you don't need to carry cash that much after coming into Australia. You can deposit that into your bank account, which you can even open before arriving in Australia, but you can only activate it after coming into Australia. So around that much money will help you to cover first month or maybe two, depending upon your lifestyle here in Australia. But it will be also easy for you to transact when you first arrive here. Just keep in mind that some outlets here in Australia have stopped taking cash as a payment after COVID-19. as less and less people are using cash these days. Now moving on to the next part, which is about your arrival tips. Now you will need to complete this incoming passenger card when you're arriving in Australia. And usually they give you this card in the plane itself. So to save some time at customs and immigration, I suggest that you complete this in the plane itself. So for that, I suggest that you bring a pen with you and complete it in the plane itself. If you don't have a pen, don't worry, you can ask the cabin crew for that. Now once your plane lands in Australia, I suggest that you try to exit the plane as quickly as possible. Of course, by not pushing other people and making sure that everyone is safe when you're trying to exit quickly. But again, that will save you some time and you can exit the airport quickly. Now, if you want to really fasten your checkout for immigration and custom clearances, I suggest to not bring the items that you need to declare. As you see in this incoming passenger card, you need to answer few questions with yes and no here. So if you are bringing any of these items into Australia, you need to declare them. So my suggestion would be to read through this carefully before arriving and when you're packing your bags, so that you don't bring these items that you need to declare. Again, it's okay if you have brought any of these items, but you just have to make sure that you declare it here on this incoming passenger card and let the Australian Border Force decide whether to allow you to bring that item or not. At least you won't get fined if you have declared that item. And if you're unsure about any of these parts, you can just leave that part blank and then confirm that at the airport with Australian Border Force officer. Now once you arrive in Australia, then you need to obviously get to your place from the airport. Now in terms of the cheapest airport transfers, usually the public transport work out to be the cheapest option. But hey, again, the cheapest does not mean the best option. Sometimes you may not be able to reach a certain destination using a public transport. And so my suggestion would be to do some research and find out which option works out to be better for your airport transfer from the airport to your destination. Sometimes public transport might be the best option. Other times it could be like going through a Sky bus, or it could be through using Uber or other ride-sharing services. That don't get taxi or Uber from a random person. Make sure it is a designated place where you are getting the taxi from a taxi rank or Uber where the Uber is available. Now obviously when you come to Australia, you would need a SIM card. And these days, if you have a compatible phone, you can actually get an eSIM card before arriving in Australia. And for you, luckily we have partnered with a provider named Sally, where they have a different eSIM options with the different data and durations. And you can get 5% further discount using this code here when you sign up with the Sally. So make sure to check the link in the description and get your eSIM from there. Now, one important thing before we finalize the video, if you need any help or you are in emergency here in Australia, the primary number to call emergency is 000. Hey, you're arriving in a new country. If you need some urgent help in terms of police, ambulance, or fire brigade, then 000 is the best option. However, there is another number 112 that you can call, but ideally you should be calling 000 in case of an emergency. Hopefully you won't need that, but it's good to know. So these were some really handy tips and tricks and hacks if you are traveling to Australia as an international student. If you have any other tips, suggestions or hacks, then you can leave them in the comment section below and we would love to read them. Now if you want to make whole immigration and custom clearance quickly, then I suggest that you check this video here where I talk about how it works step by step when you arrive here in Australia, from the time your plane lands to the time you arrive in the arrival hall. It's a very detailed video. We give a comprehensive information, so I highly recommend you to check that video there. So click that video there and I'll see you there.